All right, welcome to the campfire session. This is going to be one of those conversations that can potentially be a little uncomfortable for some people because of the subject matter, but I'm really looking forward to diving into the how-to when it comes to the idea of forgiving.
That's terrific. Thanks so much for having me, Mike.
Most definitely, I'm glad that you decided to join me on this beautiful fall afternoon.
Great to be here.
And I know before we hit record, we talked a little bit about some outdoor experiences and just how impactful they can be on life.
You know, grounding yourself in nature is one of the best antidotes to stress. Going out amongst nature and getting away from technology and getting away from the noise is my personal way. I'm a cancer survivor, sober 34 years, blah blah blah. But one of the best ways I clear my head is to take a walk outside. Such a simple thing. And it's what clears me.
It's that grounding connection, it's that feeling of support that's underneath you that I find to be so impactful as I continue my journey.
Yeah, and it's being alone with your thoughts. I'm one of those people that has a terrible time meditating because all sorts of thoughts enter my head. Yet I find do my deepest thinking when I'm walking because my body's engaged in something else. So my brain is able to think about something else. And I've written a lot of books and I can only write them if I've got music going because I guess I'm one of those people that needs part of my brain to, well, shut up. So music and walking in nature is one of the best ways I do it.
Yeah, I'm the same way when it comes to writing. I've got to have some kind of music going. But I think for me, it's a lot more of my background because I grew up playing in and out of different bands and such. So that was where I learned my creative outlet. So I kind of think the two have kind of meshed together in some interestingly unique way.
So you drove your parents crazy too. My parents were always saying, "Turn that down," because I had to have it loud. And I'm 100 years older than you are, and we didn't have all this streaming and all this stuff. And so there really weren't any headphones to speak of back then that normal kids could get at the age I was. So I used to turn it up really loud, and they didn't realize that I was doing my homework.
Yeah, it was a little bit different when it was me that was making the noise and actually making the music. And for me, a lot of that aspect of my life was kind of figuring out who I was and where I thought I was going based off of just writing songs.
Yeah, because nobody teaches you how. I when I was in the eighth grade, I it was kind of a pivotal year for me because my parents, I come from a dysfunctional family, pickled and, you know, alcoholism, just connect the dots, right? It was all there. And I was bullied in school, and because of these things, I tried to commit suicide. So I kind of bobbled through life, angry and alone, draped in black. But I lived in New York City and everybody wore black, so I'm not sure I should keep saying that. But I kind of bobbled through life. When I was 16, my father sent me to this Outward Bound program, and we went hiking and canoeing, and I had to jump off a cliff. I had ropes, of course, but I was terribly scared of heights. But it kind of changed me because it taught me that I could rely on myself. And when you're alone in the woods for 3 days with only a tiny bag of what they called gorp back then, which is just, rabbit food, it kind of changes you. You can only lie to yourself for so long. So it kind of set me on a really solid path. And I was still depressed and I was still kind of angry, and I didn't really figure out about how to forgive people until much later. But that really set me up for success. That when I was 16, it really did.
I can relate a lot to that because, going through life trying to carve yourself out, you make a lot of mistakes
Yep.
because you're trying to figure things out in real time and you're only working with the vocabulary of what you have based off of the experiences that you've been through. And, as you go through life, your lenses change because that vocabulary gets bigger. Then you start carrying all these different regrets and all this
Yeah.
different guilt and all these other things where you look for distractions to avoid dealing with it. But, obviously you can only lie to yourself or distract yourself for so long. And that's where this conversation is going to really start to make some headway for a lot of folks because we're taught to distract. We're not taught how to embrace forgiveness in any context.
We're also not taught to dive into our negative emotions. Where, when I was a kid, they used to say, I'll give you something to cry about. That's kind of the where I was raised. But nobody, everybody wants you to forgive. Okay, how? And what if I don't want to forgive? Now I'm really stuck. And then they say, well, you need to forgive and then you'll forget. Okay, no, nobody's going to forget. There might be a unicorn human being somewhere on the planet that can forget. I'm not your girl. Not going to happen. So everybody listening and watching this broadcast right now, including you, 10 out of 10 people, when you see the word forgiveness on a 10 scale, with 10 being unforgivable dumpster fire, and one being the easiest person to forgive in the world, you're thinking of your number 10. Everybody does. And that's why nobody wants to forgive, because you're all thinking about that unforgivable monster thing that happened. So, my forgiveness system that I just recently wrote about is first of all, I want you to start with the number ones. I want you to make a list of all the people, places, and things. I did say places and things. Stay with me. And I want you to start with the ones. The person in grammar school who stole your lunch. You can forgive them. It was years ago. The person who cut you off in aisle 5 of the grocery store. Come on, you can forgive that person. How about when you were on I-95 and you got a little road rage because there was somebody stuck in the fast lane and you wanted to be there? Uh-huh. And we've all done that. You can forgive that person. And that's where I want you to start. Now, let me be clear. Forgiveness doesn't, just because I forgive you, doesn't mean I want a relationship with you. I probably don't. And just because I forgive you, I'm not giving you a pass. It doesn't mean they were right. I'm not condoning what they did. Forgiveness is selfish, it's personal. You do it for you. Now, I have been sober 34 years. And when I went through AA, and you have to do your fourth step and you have to make amends and you have to reach out and call these people. I'm naturally shy. And I am now an extroverted introvert. That's what everybody calls me because I can kind of turn it on and off at will. I taught myself how to do it, but I'm still pretty shy. So my system, you don't have to call anybody. Do it in the privacy of your own house and nobody has to know. Now, if you want to call them, knock yourself out, but not my knee-jerk reaction. And it's something you do for yourself. Forgiveness definition for me is a simple definition, Mike. I want you out of my head. That's it. I don't want to think about you. I don't want to talk about you. I don't want the memory in there anymore. Now, you're never going to forget what happened to you, but using the system, you can remove the emotional charge. So when you think about that instance again or that person, there's going to be no emotion attached to it. You're literally not going to care. You can go on Facebook or social media or you can even go to Thanksgiving and sit next to Aunt Martha, who you know you're going to sit next to because your parents always sit next to Aunt Martha. She drinks, so she spews out these negative stuff and she knows just what buttons to push. Forgiving Aunt Martha before you get there is not going to stop her from being her, but it sure is going to help you because it's not going to bother you anymore. In fact, you might even turn it into a drinking game if you're a drinker. Every time she does it, you take a hit because you know what she's going to do. So you might laugh about it. But the whole thing, the whole system is based on Einstein taught energy is neither created nor destroyed, right? It just transformed from one thing to another. We all learned that in school. So when you get mad, Mike, what do you think happens? You open your mouth, you get angry, and it magically dissipates into the universe. It does not, sadly. It hangs around your energy field until you clear it. So the system I'm using is you forgive the person and then you forgive the energy around the person. Forgive yourself, the energy around you, and the energy around the whole situation. And that's going to take the emotional component right out. completely.
So that's a much deeper dive than kind of where I've gone with the idea of forgiveness, because
Yeah, it's a journey.
it is. I've carried it along for a long time, and it was one of those subjects that I never wanted to deal with because I always thought it involved having to, actually say I forgive you to somebody.
You
And
are saying I forgive you to somebody, but they're not in front of you. You're doing it all by yourself.
that was where I actually one of the first conversations around forgiveness that I had kind of taught me is you can do these things silently through, or through journaling, through
Yep.
meditating, or even just thinking about it. You work through it, and they never have to know, which
Nope.
to me is kind of fits what I'm used to anyway, just kind of being myself and just focusing on my own little small square of the world. And it helped. And then there was another indigenous story that I heard about the strawberry and how it represents forgiveness. It gave me a visual. So then I was able to start expanding and building on it and becoming more comfortable with it. And, like you said, it is a journey, and it's something that we got to take step by step by step in order to get to the position where we're ready to do that deep dive.
When you make your list of people that you need to forgive, you're not going to get somebody you think is a number 10 unforgivable down to a one in one sitting. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's going to take some time. Forgiveness is like an onion because you're going to forgive the first layer and come back to me and said, "Oh, it didn't work." Yeah, it did. It did work. You just forgave the first layer, and you're going to start to remember different memories. So you might get a 10 down to a 9, and it's going to take a minute to get to walk it all the way back. Listen, forgiveness, for anybody listening to this, I'm about to hold a coffee cup in front of my face, and it's a opaque coffee cup. You can't see through it. So when I first get angry, look at my body language. And this cup is anger and bitterness and all the nasty emotions, right? Well, when it first happens, look how easy I can hold it off to the side. It's not bothering me. You and I can still have a conversation. I can manage my anger really well. It's not hurting anybody. Well, the longer I hold on to it, the more it's going to hurt. So now look at my body language. I'm using two arms to hold up this little glass of anger. Well, now it's starting to interfere with my life a little bit, starting to creep into my conversations. And if I hold on to it too long, now I'm holding the cup in front of my face. My entire body is engaged. You and I can't have a conversation anymore because I'm focused on the anger. It's all I can think about. It's all I can talk about. My friends have disappeared because I'm negative all the time. I'm starting to get sick all the time because I'm not focused on anything but the anger. I'm not focused on health. I'm not focused on anything. And even if I spin the story funny, I'm still talking about the anger. So forgiveness, even when you start with the ones, the twos, and the threes on my 10 scale, it's going to allow you to move the anger away from your body. And you're going to start to notice things. Why didn't you notice them before? Because you were too focused on the anger. You're going to notice nature. You're going to notice birds in the trees. Your coffee is going to smell better. You're going to notice a new job offer that will make you more money. You might get into a new relationship. Why didn't this happen before? Because you were focused on the anger. You weren't paying attention. And that's what this system that I've developed will do. It will allow you to become the person you were always meant to be until you took a little dive into the anger.
I think anger, though, is one of those natural emotions that we like to get stuck on because it vindicates and gives us purpose. It
It
gives us
does.
motivation when we're in a situation where somebody does us wrong. We take that pain that the situation caused us, we transition that into anger that we start to project on everybody, and we get caught up in those ideas. But in reality, it's just a shield. It's blocking everybody and any sense of progress from us being able to put our intentions there because we're caught up in that rage and that anger of it. And I think actually where it started to make sense to me was that first conversation that I had where, a friend of mine was talking about how wrestling with his dog, he ended up falling on the dog, and, he hurt his leg and everything. And that dog could have, attacked him or whatever, but just went back to playing like it was no big deal because
Yeah,
he had the intention of just enjoying life in the moment. That's
right.
where, when you step away from that shield, that's what kind of really looks you in the eye, is just the availability of that very moment, and giving you the choice to decide what you're going to do with it.
So many people have come up to me and said, anger is the fuel that I use to get where I am today. It's how I get up in the morning. I'm angry, and that gives me the confidence and it gives me the fuel I need to do whatever it is they were doing. That's fair. And I agree with that. It's become your identity. But may I submit to everybody listening that love and forgiveness will get you 2 times farther and 3 times faster. You've gotten where you've done very well. But if you want to go the rest of the way and live all of your dreams and live in joy, there's a word that most people don't know. I ask people, what brings you joy? I can't tell you how many people don't answer my question, but it will take you farther faster than hate ever will. And
You know,
hate's going to make you sick. I do have science in the book, but there was a Japanese water study, and it's done by a guy named Masumoto. You can Google it. It's really cool. It's right online. And I'm going to pare this down real fast. 2 containers of water, and it's more involved than this, but I'm just going to simplify it. 1 container of water, he spoke nice things. He didn't do anything except talk to it. He treated it well, said beautiful, loving words to. The other container, he said negative things, hatred, nasty, nasty, horrible things to it. Then he put it under a microscope. The water he said nasty things to had these black and brown sludgy formations. Pictures are right online. And the water that he spoke love to had these beautiful formations. So why am I telling you this? Your body's 98% water. I'm all about teaching people how. So when people say anger is toxic, it will make you sick, this is the how. You're turning the water cells into your body into these brown sludgy things. And forgiveness is going to change them back.
I can relate a lot to that, and I can actually walk that whole course through a lot of my life, and notice where, before the fork in the road came,
Yep.
that was what I carried. That was what I held on to, and when it the what I visualized, the main trigger of it, was no longer there, and I started to kind of tease through life and realize there's more to it than just walking around bitter and angry and afraid
Yeah.
to connect with myself. I started walking this interesting path throughout life where I started to become more open. I started to find happiness. And, I think a lot of that came through spending time within my mindful practices, as well as some difficult conversations with myself.
Forgiveness is not a quick fix. It is not an easy thing. This work is hard, but it will free you permanently. And a lot of people do come from a dysfunctional childhood, 100 times worse than mine, and they don't want to go back to it mentally. They don't want to think about it. And I respect that. But I'm only asking you to go back once so you could clear it. Now, what if you're talking about an unforgivable number 10 dumpster fire? How do you forgive those people? What if that person is you? Well, there's other things that you can forgive. That unforgivable person, it may not even be appropriate for you to forgive them, depending upon what they did. It might be a parent or a sibling or a business partner or something really, really, really bad. So forgive other things in the memory. Einstein also proved that everything has energy around it. The trees, the grass, even this coffee cup, everything has energy around it. So you forgive the energy. So let's say, to use an example I use a lot, let's say you're driving to work and you stop at a red light and you turn your head to the left and there's your grammar school. And maybe you got bullied there. And you don't always notice it, but today you did. The light, there was somebody in front of you, and you just kind of hung out at that light a little longer than you usually do, so you saw it. And you remembered the memory, and it irritated the heck out of you. So by the time you got to work, you were kind of in a bad mood, which doesn't help anybody. So how do you clear that? Well, maybe you don't want to forgive the bully, which is fair. Took me a long time to forgive bullies. I was bullied. But I can clear the school and the energy around the school so I can forgive the building, the swing set, the desk, the table, the chair. And that's just enough. I can forgive myself for anything I may or may not have done. And that's just enough to allow the memory to clear and allow you to walk forward. When you come against a brick wall, everybody, with all due respect to speakers and coaches out there, everybody kind of wants to give you tools to break through the wall. I'm a little different. I may help you pull out a few of those bricks out of the wall by forgiving parts of that memory. Then I want you to walk around the dumb thing and keep going. Circle back when you can. And if you never can circle back, that's fine too. You don't have to forgive the unforgivable, but you can forgive just enough of that memory that it will allow you to mentally walk forward.
See, I think that's not only beautiful, but I think that's also something that, most of us can touch,
Yeah,
because the way that it's laid out is almost on one of those choose your own adventure kind of
exactly.
courses.
Yeah,
And to me, that's something that a lot of people have a very easy time relating to, as long as they're willing to open their heart. As long as you're willing to see the things that are kind of holding you back, and you're willing to tackle them.
it's sometimes, there are some magical people on the planet that can forgive the unforgivable. And I respect that. But not everybody can do that. And by people saying you have to forgive, I think is hurting people mentally because it may not be appropriate and they may not want to. And that might be completely 100% fair. So forgive what you can. Forgive yourself for anything you may or may not have done. Notice what I just said. Forgive the bed, the table, the chair, the bench, the room, the building, the people that were around that didn't help, and forgive the energy around these things. And that's enough to help you move forward. The person you became in order to survive is somebody you can forgive. The 20-year-old Catherine who made all those mistakes, and I had to quit drinking for a reason, but the person I was back in those days, that angry, bitter person, I created that person to survive. I can forgive that girl because she did the best she could with the tools she had at the time. I'm 63 now, so I can forgive that 20-year-old person. And I can forgive, maybe I might not be able to forgive all the pieces of a particular memory, but I can forgive a lot of it. I forgave 1974 the whole year and the energy around 1974. It was a horrible year. Why did I do this? Because it really was horrible. I was getting bullied in school. My parents were getting a horrible divorce. They were both pickled, and I tried to commit suicide. So I did forgive the pieces in the players in that year, but I also forgave the whole year. So you can forgive anything. You can forgive politicians, cities, buildings, your childhood home where horrible things happen and the energy around your childhood home. You could forgive your car. You could forgive anything in this world. You could forgive the Middle East. Now, is it going to help the Middle East become peaceful? No. Sure will help you, though, because your anger is going to dissipate. You can forgive anything. And I think that's what people don't understand. Everything is forgivable. Well, almost everything.
Well, yeah, and I think now that we've got everybody inspired, I'd like for you to take a couple minutes to speak to somebody that's at the very beginning of that journey. They're looking to get on the railroad of forgiveness. How do
Okay.
they jump? How do they jump on?
Well, the first thing you might want to do is forgive yourself for not being able to forgive. Start there and forgive yourself and forgive the energy around yourself. Now, I want you to write a list, get a piece of paper and a pen. Now, there is a magic button on your smartphone. It's called the off button. It turns off. I said this to somebody couple months back, the color drained from the woman's face. She said, "Oh no, I can't turn it off." She literally lost all the color in her face. It's really funny, very entertaining for me. But if you are like that woman and you just get scared, mute it and make sure you're alone. So nobody's gonna come in and interrupt you. And get a list of all the people and places and things if you want that you think you need to forgive. And then I want you to rate them from 1 to 10, 10 being awful. And you could have five number fives, you could have 10 number threes. It's all the same to me. And you can forgive dead people, to be perfectly blunt, because where they are or are not doesn't matter a lick, because you're doing this for you. You're not going to reach out to them. So it doesn't matter. So write everybody down from the time you were in the sandbox to now. And then I want you to start with the number ones and imagine that they're standing in front of you, the person you knew. Maybe it was a childhood friend. See that friend, not as who they are as an adult. See the person that they are. And if you have some anger to get out, let them have it. Because imagine they're standing in front of you. If you can't imagine them standing in front of you, put a chair in front of your desk or your sofa or your bed and talk to the chair and pretend they're sitting in it. And then I want you to just get it all out and then let them walk off out of the room. And then using the mantra I have in the book, and there's no incense to burn unless you want to. You don't have to dance. There's no crystals to burn unless you want to. It's all good. It's just a simple poem. And you forgive them, the energy around them, yourself, the energy around yourself, and the energy around the whole thing. And then you move on to then you check in with your body. Are you still angry? If it's a number six person, are you still angry? What if it was a number three? And now, because you've forgiven that first layer, maybe you're even more mad because you've remembered some memories. The energy cleared a couple layers and your brain kicked in. Okay, well, maybe you go back to your paper and they were a three. Okay, now they're a seven. Hello. So this is why it's a journey. And don't try and do it before bed because your body heals itself before bed, and try to limit yourself to only 10 to 12 people. Because remember that Japanese water study? The cells have to go somewhere when you clear the anger. So you'll probably most people get really tired after they do this work. They'll clear like 10 people and they get really sleepy, which is why I want you to do it before bed. Some people get thirsty. Some people, how do I delicately put this? Might be in the bathroom for a little bit. You did not eat a piece of bad fish. It's just your body clearing itself out. I did this, and I'm a little bit of an overachiever in that I wrote 12 books, but I thought this is going to be great. And I got my list, and I had 50, 60 people on there, and I thought, I'm going to be like a butterfly coming out of a cocoon. It's going to be wonderful. I'm going to be a new person tomorrow. So I'm going to forgive all the people on this list. And I did. I tried to forgive the tens, but they're a bear. So I just kind of paid lip service to it and hoped for the best. It didn't work out the way I thought. I spent the next 3 days in bed with what everybody thought was a stomach flu because my body needed to catch up to release all those anger toxins. So please do as I say, not as I did, and only do like 10 to 12 max. But this is life-changing work, and it will work whether you believe it or not. It's like the law of gravity. The law of gravity is going to work whether you believe it or not. I can call the law of gravity the law of keeping Mike on the ground. It doesn't care. Still going to work. Okay, I don't believe in the law of gravity. Doesn't care. Still going to work. This will work. You just have to keep at it.
I think pace yourself
Yeah.
and just try to make the best and enjoy the journey as you get there.
And if you want to forgive people outside, that's brilliant. Do it leaning against a tree because trees are real. They have personalities and they have a soul. And if you lean against a tree, the tree's essence will help you forgive somebody. And I know that's a little brain stretchy, and I know it sounds like hoodoo voodoo. It is not. It's kind of a thing. And so if you can lean against a tree or nature of some sort, that would be awesome. But try and take a nap afterwards because you're going to be tired.
That's what Grandmother Earth is here for.
That's
Support
right.
us and to take all that stuff that we shouldn't be carrying anyway.
Yep. The tree will take all that anger. It's fine. And then I always thank the tree after I leave. I try and not do it in front of everybody because they think you're crazy if you talk to trees. But yeah.
I think adding a touch of gratitude in there is definitely a powerful thing. So as we come to the end, I got to thank you for this amazing conversation. I think this is something that, is very helpful and something everybody can relate to and use in their life is adding a layer of forgiveness into their practice and routines. So as far as all that good self-promotion stuff, you got to let people know where they can get at you when they're ready to work with you, get your books, all that good stuff.
You can reach me at my website at katharinegiovanni.com, and Catherine is spelled very strangely, thanks to my mother. Thanks, Mom. It's Katharine Giovanni.com. I also understand that not everybody likes to read, so I do have the audiobook available as well as the ebook and the paperback on Amazon.
Beautiful. I'm actually going to look for the book on audio so I can take that with me on my next hike. Thank you very much for taking the time today. I don't believe in goodbyes. So until we meet again, whether it's this life or the next, I wish you a safe and prosperous journey.
And I wish the same for you. Thanks so much for having me.